Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. This is the Paddock podcast. I'm joined by Jay and Ronaldo, and today we are going to be talking about this season for Manchester United. Could it be better than Arsenal and City's seasons? We saw City lose the FA Cup final to Crystal Palace, meaning they cannot win any trophies this season. Arsenal, of course, aren't winning any trophies. Man City could still finish outside the Champions League places, although likelihood is that they will get Champions League, should I say. If Manchester United beat Tottenham on Wednesday, we will get the Champions League that both of them have got, which is the sort of highlight of their season, but we will also have a trophy to show for ourselves. Does that make this season better for Manchester United than it has been for Arsenal and Man City? Jay, open the discussion up.
I'm worried. The way you worded that was important. Is it like better for us rather than just better in generally?
Is it a better season?
Is it a better season?
I'm worried that this might be as good as it gets.
What, 2 days before the final when we lose?
Right now.
Well,
City haven't won. It's like Schrodinger's, Champions League
qualification.
Yeah, right now, City might not get Champions League. Mm-hmm. We might get Champions League. We might end up with a trophy. We know they're not going to win a trophy, of course. But by the end of this week, we might not have Champions League, and City might have made it into the Champions League. We just don't know.
There's a reason we did this topic this week.
Yeah, rather than wait. So we're sat here in 16th or 17th. Sure. 17th with no trophies, no Champions League football, obviously, and the worst Premier League season you can have without getting relegated. Even though I am Mr. Trophy, if I was a Mr. Man, that would be my name, Mr. Trophy. I love trophies. That is what you remember. You remember the trips to the final, the lifting of the silverware, the celebrations afterwards. You remember all that more so than you remember the game that got you over the line for Champions League qualification in the league. I have to be honest, and I think with Arsenal, I think they've had a better season than United. And the reason I say that is, I think because Arsenal are a club that they haven't got much European pedigree, right? They've never won the Champions League. They haven't won a European trophy for, since the 90s, I think. Was it the Cup Winners' Cup, which is a fantastic achievement, let's not pretend, but it's been a long time coming, I think, hasn't it? To get to the semi-finals of the Champions League and beat Real Madrid the way they did, I think that is quite, for them, amazing. Yeah? And I think also, yet again, it looks like they're going to finish second for the third consecutive season. You can't just ignore all that. And I think to give them the due, they've obviously won a lot of football matches as well to get to the semi-finals of the Champions League and to finish second in the league. And even though I hate Arsenal, they are the only team that has remotely made it a bit of a title race, even though it didn't last very long. So I think for me, they've had a better season than Manchester United, even if United win the Europa League. City, I think it's different. Losing an FA Cup final to a massive underdog, the horrible run they went on when even we beat them at the Etihad.
What was it, 1 win in 11 games at one point? Yeah.
And the standards they've set, 4 in a row, going for the Champions League every season, going for the treble, winning the treble, everything they've done. This season as well, coming before the charges, we even know what's happening with them. I don't know. I think there's a conversation there. I think City fans would obviously disagree and go, what you're talking about, you're 16th.
Here's what I would say to that.
Fourth or whatever.
Is that we will, if we were to win the Europa League, we will definitely end this season with more amazing memories and moments than Man City.
That's a great point.
Because Man City got to the FA Cup final and they were okay, but there wasn't those I'm trying to think back now, there wasn't a standout underdog amazing moment to get there, and then when they got to the final they lost to a standout amazing underdog moment in Crystal Palace. Their Champions League run was pretty poor. They really struggled in the group stages, then sort of got through the group stages a little bit and then got knocked out.
Pep was scraping his face off at one point, which is never a good look.
Scratched his own face off. In the Premier League, like you said, they've known from the end of October that they weren't going to win the league. So they've never really had
and to be title holders as well, that hits differently, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And in the Carabao, what happened in the Carabao with them?
I can't remember.
I can't even remember what happened in the Carabao. Area.
But if they don't get Champions League, then there's definitely a conversation to be had.
Yeah. What do you think, Ronnie? Do you think that the fact that we're so low in the league, we're so far from challenging for the Premier League title, that at least some of the Arsenal and City fans think good summer and we're back up to challenging? Does that make this season so much better?
I thought my take on this would be unpopular, but I think Jay's pretty much said it. I think even if we win the Europa League on Wednesday, I can't honestly say that we've had a better season than Arsenal. I think, especially with having probably one of our worst league campaigns ever. Well, obviously the worst I've seen, and obviously the trajectory that we have been on the past couple of seasons. I think it's difficult for me to think finishing 16th, possibly 17th in the league and winning the Europa League is better this season than Arsenal. Obviously finishing runners-up, which you don't get a trophy for, and then getting to the semi-final of the Champions League, you can't really scoff at that either. Obviously got to the semi-final of the Carabao Cup, didn't they, as well?
Lost comfortably to Newcastle.
Newcastle.
Yeah.
I think second place and getting to the Europa League semi-final, obviously Champions League final, and then getting a scalp of obviously beating Real Madrid on the way. I can't look at what my club's done in the Premier League, which is where your bread and butter is, and then feel like a Europa League win kind of trumps that. I think there's a better argument for it being better than for you saying in like a joking way, you obviously watch football and you play football to win things. That's pretty much the purpose of it. But I think there's a better argument towards Man City, the Man City angle, even though we still are quite a way off, because I think we are like 32 points behind Arsenal in the league as well. So it's not like I feel like
well, they must really have a lot of points.
I feel like it'd be very shameless to come in here and be like, yeah, if we're Europa,
they must have
about
150 points.
Yeah, how have they managed that?
Great.
Do you know what I mean? But anyway, I think there's for the City one, if they finish Europa League, then you can kind of say the end result of what we've attained in terms of Champions League football, and they've got Europa League whilst not win anything, whilst we've also won Europa League. There's a better argument there. But I think with the Arsenal one, nah, I wouldn't say so.
For the Champions League, I was thinking about this morning, because I got asked this question the other day. And that Real Madrid game for their fans as well, and that the sort of the occasion, the night itself, you was at the Rome 7-1. Do you look back at that game with like proper fondness and memory, almost more so than you might look back at, say, the 2010 Carling Cup or whatever, when we won something? But that kind of iconic game where, I know obviously, you know, you can, it's sort of also causing it. Beating Real Madrid is better than beating Roma, but a 7-1 win in the Champions League is phenomenal. So it's like, it's a memorable night that even though we didn't go on and win the trophy, you will never forget.
Well, that's the thing.
Do you know what I mean? So I'm just curious.
Arsenal do have, like I said before, City don't really have big, great moments from this season. Arsenal have got a couple. So that's a big one. That is the big one, I would say. And I don't think that, obviously, we aren't doing as well as either of those two teams. You said we're 30 points behind Arsenal in the league or thereabouts. Like
32, I think.
Yeah, 32. So it's I'm not. There's no way you could say we are better than that. Or we're doing better than that.
Yeah, because
that's absurd.
Because the question could be shaped in a way. It could be like another question that probably will get you different answers is if we win the Europa League, would you look back on the season and say that's a good season?
It's been a success.
It's been a
well, again, no, I probably wouldn't. But I do think though, like there is something to be said for continuously winning trophies, and I do think that achieving Champions League by winning a trophy is better than by getting top four. Like I would rather win the playoffs than finish second if I'm a championship team. Because you get a day out, you get a moment where it all came together, you get to lift a trophy, and your fans, or your team and your fans,
That's a great analogy,
have a great day, whereas the other one doesn't. Finishing second is amazing, you still get promoted, but you don't get that culmination.
First last, they call it. First loser.
Yeah.
You don't get that like special day that you get by winning the playoffs. And I think that winning the Europa League to get in the Champions League is far more fun, has far more memories attached to it. That Lyon game is better than looking through, the Premier League teams this season. So few teams have had a moment as good and as exciting and as happy and joyful as that. Maybe Arsenal against Real Madrid, but I'm looking at Liverpool. I don't think they've got a single moment like that. I think Everton's Tarkowski's goal against Liverpool is closer to that. Obviously, we don't have a better season than Liverpool because of what they've won. But I do think that those moments matter, and winning trophies matters.
I'm loving some of the Liverpool head loss about Trent Alexander-Arnold.
Yeah,
it's like it's tainting their little party. Like
they always have something taint their
party.
Like
there wasn't like talking of parties, like some sort of do at the training complex the other day, and apparently they do it every year. But Trent was there, and there was cakes and all that. And it was like being dubbed, even though this isn't wholly accurate, as his leaving party. And they're all losing their mind over it. Like, why are we giving him a leaving party? And apparently, it wasn't a leaving party. It's like what they do.
Just a yearly barbecue.
Yeah, like, but it was like they were so angry. They were infuriated by the idea that they were giving someone who had been at the club for 20 years a leaving party. It was like, you've lost your heads.
Do you know? Do you know on this question, because I said it to you just before I came on air. I think it's because of how bad the league campaign that makes it United have had, that's made it a bit more of a discussion. Because I think if United were finishing 8th, 7th with a bit of better performances and we've won the Europa League, then I'll be here saying 100% we've had a better season than them two. I think United's season in the league has been so bad that it kind of makes it a bit of a discussion in your head.
I remember, I think
yeah,
George was here with us mention it. I remember having a debate with a City fan. Not even a debate, actually, because we weren't arguing. In 2017, a City fan said to me, "You've had a better season than we have." Like, there's no doubt, because we won the League Cup. I know it's an extra trophy, the Europa, and got into the Champions League. They finished, I think, is it 3rd or 4th? I think it might have been 3rd in Pep's first season. So they got Champions League football. They won more matches in the Premier League than us. They might have even won more games overall, but we won 2 trophies.
Yeah. So
we've got Champions League football and 2 bits of silverware. Slightly different, 1 bit of silverware, and we finished 6th that season, as Ronnie's just pointed out. Yeah. I think we'll finish 17th. And for man saying that, Spurs will probably lose their last game as well. So who knows?
My issue is we've got Villa last, haven't we?
Oh, we'll lose to them.
I do think that,
and they need to beat us, don't they? For
they will do.
And we'll be on
I
the
do
beach.
think on your point though, Ronnie, about like how bad it's been by comparison. I do think as humans, you give more credit and more emotion to someone that's been through really hard times and come out the other side, compared to someone that never went through those hard times. It's much easier to congratulate someone for overcoming something than it is for never having had something. Like, do you know when you have a cold and you feel terrible, but the few days after the cold leaves,
that is an all-time classic Ronaldo Brown statement. I had a cold earlier.
He seemed a little bit quiet. He just went, I had a cold earlier. But like when you have a cold and then you get rid of the cold, those first few days afterwards, you're like floating on air.
Do you know what? That's a really good point, right?
But you needed that cold to feel.
To appreciate
lad, right?
not having a cold. Yeah.
My lad has got 9 years without a beer. No one gives him any credit.
Yeah.
But when I went at 9 years, everyone was congratulating me.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everyone was saying, well done, Jay, 9 years without a beer. Like,
you know what I mean?
How do you know for sure about that?
Because I keep an eye on him. And his mum told me to stop giving him beer.
You do regularly blood tests on him as well, don't you? To check
it's a family tradition in our house. We all have them. Do you know what I mean?
But like that point kind of stands though. Like it feels better to overcome something difficult than to have never had something difficult. So United, if we get Champions League football having been 16th, like if we were 4th now, my care about the Europa League final would be like 7.5 out of 10. It is 10 out of 10 now.
Yeah.
Or 9.5 out of 10, other than a Champions League final. Like it feels so important on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Whereas if we were 3rd and safe, it'd be like, it'd be amazing to win another trophy. But it wouldn't feel like the future of Manchester United rides, and it like it kind of does at the minute.
Like, did it?
No, it didn't.
And like there's I think with Gdansk we look back at it with hindsight of what it meant to Ollie had he won it. But at the time, you probably thought he was safe as houses because he finished 2nd. He got to a Europa League final, and then in the summer we went and brought a load of players who were, world class, arguably. So you think, happy days. We don't have to worry about our manager. And then it was only when the wheels came off you thought, actually, had he won that Europa, he probably would have brought himself at least to the end of the season. Yeah. So you're right, Joe. I agree with you. I think it's seminal. This game, it really is.
I'm scared, man.
It is funny watching what has happened to City, but it'll be only really truly funny if we get Champions League football.
We have to win this.
And they
don't.
Have
to win it. Yeah.
Like that would be unreal if we were to end up in the Champions League next season.
What is it they need?
Not without the charges.
4 points.
Yeah, they've got Fulham and Bournemouth in the last 2 games. I think they need 4 points.
It would have been 2, but they drew.
They drew
Southampton, innit? That was like a big draw for them.
Yeah.
They've got Bournemouth next away, innit? I'm not sure they win that, so I think it might go down to the last game.
So they need to win.
But I think they might rely on the teams around them, because I'm pretty sure what goes in their favour is I think Nottingham are playing.
Nottingham are out of it. I think.
Not
Forest,
but they're playing Chelsea.
All right, sorry.
Yeah, so they
Last
can't
game.
both win, obviously.
So they both can't win.
Yeah.
So as it stands at the minute,
but as it stands, Forest are out of it and Chelsea are in it. So if Chelsea wins that last game, and Villa win their last game, and
Who are
Newcastle win their last game, then I think it's, you know, and obviously City have to get those points you mentioned, but it's not a million miles away. We've got a few comments as well, of course. Santa Notch says, wonder if the Palace fans are thinking, winning our first trophy ever is ace, but damn, I wish we could have finished second in the league. That would have been even better. Yeah, they're probably not, are they?
No.
And the FA Cup is different, because for me it holds even more weight than the Europa.
It's a bit of a false equivalence, though.
Well, I do think that the point of trophies meaning more than just league position, or more than some league positions, I do agree with that. Switch says, how many more years can we do this chat before we start getting worried? Oh, we're worried. We're beyond worried.
That's my concern.
No question about
I am
that.
already worried. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I feel like every year we're talking about, it's all right, we've had a cup run, so it doesn't matter that we're terrible in the league.
Yeah.
I want to get to a situation where we can talk about both. Challenging, whilst also winning trophies.
See, Jiggers O'Toole says, winning the Europa League is better than finishing second. There you go.
It's just difficult, innit? I find it difficult at United at the minute to say anything with my chest out because of how bad we are.
Yeah.
And it's so, like, you know, I know, like, I'm pretty shameless as a United fan, I know as I've been, but even I struggle at times to go, this is so good or whatever, or let's all laugh at City. I mean, don't get me wrong, I fully will do at the end of the season if we've made the Champions League, and even, you know, I can even laugh a little bit if they make the Champions League and we do, and then we've won a trophy. But let's be honest, it's been such a disastrous Premier League campaign. It is a bit hard to truly sort of troll people.
Do you know what's mad? Because people are seeing the Champions League qualification in two ways, where we need it because, as you said, it is seminal, and we've gotten to a part where every transfer window that United have now is like of vital importance, because we want to get closer to the pack rather than getting further away. And I feel like we can't afford any mistakes anymore, especially with PSR and FFP and how strong other teams around us are getting financially. And it's not even just the traditional top four as well. But with Amram, who's come in and he's had to play a lot of midweek games, and he's talking about still incorporating this new system. Some people have alluded to the fact that if United get Champions League football, it will be beneficial in terms of money, revenue, obviously being attractive to players that we want to sign in terms of the summer. But with the fixture congestion next season, will United end up with the similar amount of injuries that we saw sometimes under Ten Hag, or does he get enough time to fully get his own system to almost be like flow state for the players?
It depends who we're playing in the final. If we somehow were playing Juve in the final, I think that a lot more people would buy into that. If we lose to Tottenham in a final, that's a disaster. It's just a disaster. Like, PR-wise, there's not really much worse you can do as a United manager on the pitch than lose to Tottenham in a final. Like, I can't overestimate how big that would be, especially this Tottenham. It's literally the worst Tottenham. Like, we talk about the worst Man United in my lifetime. This is the worst Tottenham in my lifetime. I've never seen them this bad.
Do you know what, Joe? I've got about 15 years on you, and
yeah,
it's the worst in mine as well.
Yeah,
I've never seen, unless I'm misremembering, I've seen Tottenham finish like mid-table, even bottom half of the table, but 17th potentially. I don't think I've ever seen that.
They're always like a decent first division,
historically,
top division team.
You know, when you talk now, we talk about the top six in terms of Champions League and stuff like that. Historically, Spurs were one of the top six. First team to win the double, always won trophies, always had big crowds, worldwide support, like quite a glamorous club. You know what I mean? They've always had exciting, talented players, Hoddle, Gascoigne, Lineker, you know, Ginola, that kind of thing. They've always had a bit of that about them, and yet, not right now. If Ipswich, Leicester, or Southampton had got their act together, then either us or Spurs would have been in all sorts of trouble.
So, assuming that they finish 16th or 17th this season, it'll be their worst season since 1976-77. So, very similar to Man United, really.
That was before my time.
Yeah, where they finished 22nd and got relegated. So, it's literally, essentially, you know, a couple of years different to United's worst ever season as well when they got relegated. So, it's you know, it's unthinkable to lose to not just Tottenham, but to this Tottenham.
Yeah.
Like, it would be so bad to lose this game to them. But obviously, when next season rolls around, the 1 game a week thing, I do think will help us. Like we mentioned before, Newcastle this season, I don't think it's just a shock that they've had somewhat fewer injuries. They're getting, you know, top 4 again. Whereas last season they really struggled, you know, trying to do the Champions League thing. And the season before, again, no Europe, looked really good. I do think that could potentially help us.
I've been looking at the top 4 race in Champions League football and looking at, because I'm not just looking at Arsenal, Chelsea and City. I say it all the time. I don't want Newcastle and Villa getting Champions League football, but it looks like one of them, or maybe both of them, could, or maybe will. But I think they're the teams that United almost need to be keeping an eye on as rivals at the moment.
In what way rivals? Because obviously they're well ahead of us.
In terms of, they're like the first hurdle to get back towards competing with the likes of Arsenal, City and City. I think we need to deal with Newcastle, Villa, even Chelsea, but Chelsea probably half and half in that tier above, or even Spurs alongside us, because them teams constantly getting Champions League football now, a couple windows in a row. You start to establish yourself, obviously money, revenue, and becoming a bit more of an attractive proposition for players. And before you know it, we could be in the mix with them. I think in terms of United getting back to top and rebuild, I think that them teams are the hurdle we need to cross. So I always look at what they're doing in the market, but I'm also kind of hoping that if it was me, I'd rather City and Chelsea get, and Newcastle and Villa don't. I know it sounds a bit like, how can you rather City, but I'm just thinking about United kind of speeding back towards the top.
The thing that worries me about City in the Champions League is they always have a chance of winning it. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the thing.
I think City,
I
think
can
Pep's
see
going. I think once Pep goes, I think they'll have a massive low period though.
I mean, I don't. Will he go next season? Will he still be there next season?
I think he'll be here next season.
I think Rodri comes back into that team. They're going to spend a load of dough because their heads have fell off because they've not won out, and they've already sort of say. I think they dropped out of the Verts deal, haven't they? Yeah. That's just broke earlier.
This afternoon, yeah.
But I think they'll spend the dough, get Rodri back, who is unfortunately class. So I think if they're in it, they've got almost as good a chance as anyone of winning it. Yeah. That's what worries me. It used to be the same with Liverpool. I used to hate when Liverpool qualified for the Champions League, even when they were in the sort of almost the banter era, because they'd still have a chance. Like, they got to, they won it in 2005, they got to another final in 2007. Like, you think, Jesus Christ, they could actually win this.
They've been in 3 finals in the last 8 years.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is.
Yeah. So that always worries me about these clubs. Like, seems like, I don't know. I get your point, Ronnie, because it's like we're competing with those
Newcastle and Villa. You can't imagine them in a Champions League final.
Yeah, and also it wouldn't bother me that horrendously if they did. Obviously, I don't want them to, but I wouldn't be that gutted like I would be if City won another one.
Talk about improving the teams and transfers this summer. I do want to move on a little bit and talk about Victor Gyokeres, because he's a name that 12 months ago or 8 months ago when Amorim first came in, he was a name all over everyone's lips. United need a striker. He's a striker that's worked with Ruben Amorim. He's got this relatively low buyout clause. This really makes sense. Then it felt like for the next sort of 5 or 6 months, there was a slow sort of decline in the amount of people reporting him, people even saying we're not interested in him. And then the last couple of weeks, all of a sudden, I'm seeing it start to ramp back up again. Gyokeres has basically said he's leaving. It's accepted that he will leave for around 50 to 55 million pounds. I think 60 to 65 million euros, somewhere in that region is his buyout clause. Maybe people will pay slightly above that. It's also Fabrizio Romano spoke in the last few days about United still being interested, or United still showing interest in Victor Gyokeres. And I want to talk about him for a couple of reasons. One, because I want to get your thoughts on him. But secondly, I want to talk to Ronaldo directly about him, because you've been a little bit more outspoken about your feelings on the translatability of Victor Gyokeres' skill set into the Premier League. Talk to me about why you're not so sure that he's going to be a success if he were to come to.
Nah, I think that's too strong. I've not ever said he wouldn't be a success.
Okay.
I just thought he wouldn't replicate his goal scoring feats we've seen in Portugal. I think he will score goals in the Premier League, because once again, you can't score the amount of goals he has scored without being a good player. It's just about, he's never
going to get those numbers in the Premier League. I think you're right on that.
But I think with the money wise, he's probably going to be available for 55 million. Romano's come out with. That's actually value. It's when I was hearing that it cost 80 million, 85 million. I thought, I'm not sure he's quite worth that. Do you know what I mean? And but I think for possibly what was a release clause, 65 million euros, which is around 50 to 55 million. I reckon that's actually good value for a player like Gyokeres, because obviously he scored the goals he has scored. I just think, having seen a bit of him, I don't think he comes to the Premier League and bangs 25 league goals like people would expect him to. Do you know what I mean? I think like and obviously I'm a bit sceptical because there's a lot of strikers and forwards that have done really well in Portugal. Never to Gyokeres' extent though.
Yeah.
that have not really been able to replicate anywhere near it when they've gone to other leagues or stronger leagues.
Nunes.
There's like a list of about 15.
There isn't. I'm struggling to think of any that have smashed goals in the Portuguese league and then left to a bigger league.
I think the only person is like Falcao.
Yeah, when he was at Porto and then
Falcao did it. But there's always going to be
and also that was 15 years ago at this point.
I mean, but
so that isn't. Yeah, it is difficult. I do agree with you that he's obviously not going to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And I always mention him, but Bas Dost is one that I always think of when he was at Sporting Lisbon. He was getting like 40 goals a season off of about 45
even Goncalo
touches.
Ramos.
Yeah, there's a lot of names on that list, but I do think that, like you said, there's a huge drop off available to him before he starts not being worth 60 million euros. Like 50 million quid, 55 million quid is like just, you know, I think.
I'd rather Osimhen. That's what I think that was.
Yeah, okay, well I get that, but I think what you get for 50 to 60 million quid is, if that is 15 to 25 goals a season, that's not that bad. Look what Gabriel Jesus does at Arsenal. I think he'll do better than him.
I think he's overrated. I get your point.
They spent 50 million on him, didn't they, Arsenal? Gabriel Jesus.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that, you know, using a relatively bad transfer, there's a lot of worse transfers than him. He starts for Arsenal when he's fit.
Yeah.
And I just think that for the price, someone that knows Amorim, someone that is banging goals in, that won't want, I mean, he might want it, but he's not going to, you know, accept. I think he will accept less than 400 grand a week, which I worry about Osimhen not doing. I think they'd be an unbelievable transfer.
I just
and you get him and Delap for under 100 million.
Would you rather?
That's crazy.
Because couldn't Osimhen cost around the same, but obviously his wages will be a lot higher, so that kind of makes it. I just think if Osimhen cost 5 million more than Gyokeres, I'd rather go for Osimhen.
But Gyokeres and Delap for under 100 million quid, that's unbelievable business. That
would you have to sell Højlund?
I think if you got them both, you would. Yeah, I think if you got both of them, you would. If you got one, you wouldn't. But yeah, I mean, we've got an update here from Sky Sports. I think this is off the back of the Fabrizio Romano stuff earlier today, but this is from Sky. Matheus Cunha transfer. Wolves forward set to join Manchester United at the end of the season. Wolves forward Matheus Cunha is set to join Manchester United at the end of the season. United are expected to trigger a £62.5 million release clause in his contract. Despite interest from other clubs, Cunha wants to play for Manchester United, and Sky Sports News has been told the deal is almost agreed. That's obviously big news. You spoke about it in your news this morning, Jay. We sort of knew that we were moving down this path for Matheus Cunha.
What was the source, did you say?
Sky Sports News.
Sky Sports News.
How did they?
They've got their own. I mean, it's just a rewording of what Romano said this morning, really, isn't it? It's sort of
Sky Sports understands.
Yeah,
it's a step towards a sort of consensus, though, isn't it?
We're at the point now where we all just expect and know this deal is going to be done.
I think so.
Is anyone who doubts that? Is anyone thinking there's going to be a twist in the sale? I just can't see it. I just think it's a given now. It feels like everything is sort of settled. Obviously, it's a release clause. The player seems happy to come. The club already have the money. Laurie told us that on Inside United. He said it's not reliant on sales or Champions League football.
Yeah.
So there's no obstacle, and it feels like the club itself, the manager himself, and everyone is happy with this deal.
Yeah.
Cunha is a good player for me, an exciting player. Yeah, just get him here.
So on that, are you happy with this deal, Ronnie?
Yes.
Generally speaking, yeah.
Yeah, I think Cunha's, as we've seen the quality he's had playing for a lesser team in the Premier League. Can I still say that? I know Wolves are above us.
Yeah, they are. Let's be honest.
But I think smaller club goes better. But
yes,
I get your point.
Smaller club. We've seen the qualities that Cunha does have. But one thing that I do like about the transfer is he's also got the capability of playing up front as well.
Yeah.
If needs be, we've seen him play one of the 10 roles. He's not alien to playing up front as well. So I always kind of like appreciate that type of versatility for a player, especially when you've got injuries and you've got players sometimes coming out of form. Someone that can play multiple positions at a high level like he has shown. I think it's a good deal.
Why does the 62.5 million that we're spending on him feel like a lot less money than 60 million for Gyokeres? Like, it's the same fee, if not a bit more, and yet when we talk about it with Gyokeres, I'm not talking on your behalf. For me, it feels like, bloody hell, that's a lot of money. Whereas for that, it's like, it's not bad, that.
I still think it's a lot of money.
I know
it's a lot of money, but
I don't quite agree with the Gyokeres thing.
You're a big fan, aren't you?
Ronnie knows far more about him than I do. I've been impressed when I have watched him.
Yeah.
And also, I think 60 million quid for a striker now isn't that bad. For a striker that scores so many goals, I know he's 26. But I think if you get a striker for like him, say you get him for 3 seasons,
yeah,
you're working around 21 million quid or whatever a season plus his wages. I think that's all right. I don't like doing this because it feels like I'm digging out Højlund, and I'm not. But like we paid 70 odd million quid for Højlund. I know he's a lot younger.
Yeah,
that was a much bigger gamble than someone who scored so many goals over the last 2 seasons. Yeah. And I know again Nunes is younger, so you might say it's irrelevant because he's 5 years younger, whatever he is. But we wanted 100 million euros or something for Darwin Nunes. Like I think strikers now, if they have 1 good season or 2 good seasons, people start looking like 80 million, 90 million, or 70 million at least. So
Benfica just.
I know, I get that, but they're like, even when Osimhen went to Napoli, didn't they pay like 80 million for him?
Yeah, it was 60 that could go up to 80.
80. Yeah. And I'm guessing he fulfilled his obligations, winning a title and scoring so many goals.
Let me go through some players.
Sorry, I just think for me 60 million still feels a little bit in that grey area where it's like it's a lot of money, but it's not like.
It's like less than 60 million for Gyokeres. Yeah. That's euros.
Oh right, sorry.
But it's not you better come in here and be amazing straight away, or it's a disaster.
I think for a striker, and I know I keep saying it, I know he's not young in terms of like you could buy him and then sell him on in 4 years for 100 million or whatever. But I think that's a decent deal.
Let me go through some players that, and I'm not going to pick the obvious bust transfers that were just shocking from start to finish. Some players that play for their team or have played for their team that cost around or more than that. It's Casemiro, obviously 60 million, 70 million. Havertz to Arsenal, a transfer that I think has been a success, but he doesn't get. I don't think he's ever got 20 goals from in a season. He was 72 that could go up to 75 million. You look at. I mean, there's loads of them. Szoboszlai to Liverpool, that was 70 million euros. Again, he's been excellent and they're going to win the league. But, he's not smashing goals in left, right and centre. He's a very good player. You look at who else is on there. Gyokeres to Chelsea. Again, plays every week now, but that's been a real up and down transfer. I don't hear his fee talked about every single day of the week. Jeremy Doku cost 65 million euros. Again, he's a sub for Man City, and he's been there for 2 years.
He's a weird guy, and he's a very entertaining player. And I'm always worried when you play against him, but his output isn't perhaps at the top end of what it should be. Do you know what I mean?
City paid 62 million euros, the exact same fee would have to pay for Gyokeres, for Matheus Nunes.
Oh right, sorry.
Who hasn't even got a game for him.
Oh, the Nunes ones. Pep just doesn't rate him.
He doesn't rate him at all. But there's so many, like Chelsea paid that for Christopher Nkunku. He's been there, been poor. Probably going to leave in the summer, and I know that he's been considered a flop, but I don't see this like. I think 60 million, like you said, Jay, is a fee where you can get away with not being unbelievable. I think once you hit 70, it's like
70 feels different. For
some reason, it just does.
I agree. I completely agree. I think
55 million quid for Gyokeres. I think he can come in and get 20 goals in all competitions. People are happy with that.
Isn't that what we paid for Mason Mount when he had 8 months left on his contract?
Yeah. Also, how much did we pay for Højlund? Because that's what I said when I saw Romano come out and say it was 60 million euros that you can get Gyokeres for. I thought that's actually like really good value. Because I expected Gyokeres to be like 75, 80 million pounds at least because of the goals he scored. Do you know what I mean?
It's 2 seasons in it as well now. It's not just 1 season. I know that sounds silly, but
55 million. That's you pay a lot.
Just looking at some.
I don't know if he comes.
I know when you have like
he comes to United though. Really, Steve,
I don't know.
He has better options.
I think he might. If we get Champions League, I think he would.
I just feel like I still feel like United. I think when you're in it, it's difficult. I'm not saying we're in Manchester United, but we're United fans. We're surrounded by it. It's difficult to sort of look at it from the outside. United are one of the biggest clubs in the world. United are the only club in England where you're going to get 70,000 fans every week consistently through the door. Yeah. United still have that kudos that a lot of clubs don't have. Now, I know there's more important things than just history and kudos and stature. You want to win trophies. You want decent teammates. I understand all that. But we are still one of the biggest clubs in the world. Yeah. Like, we just are. There's no getting away from that. Liverpool went 30 years without a title. We went 26 years without a title. No one ever argued we weren't one of the biggest clubs in the world. Yet, now people say, United, are they real? Yeah. You don't lose that just because you've gone 12 years without winning the Premier League. And even if you are finishing 16th, you're still a huge club. So someone like Gyokeres might look at it and he might go, I'm going to Manchester United. I'm going to a huge club. Also, I'm going to play for a manager who knows me, and I'll get the wages that I want. Maybe he'll go for it. I don't know if he will. Maybe that's enough for him.
I don't think it's a guarantee by any means, but I wouldn't say that he's going to reject United out of hand just because he's had a bad season.
I always thought that when it was like Casemiro and Varane. I thought one of the reasons they were probably happy to go to Manchester United, because, I mean, you could argue, and I understand the argument that Real Madrid are a bigger club, than Manchester United, but you go into a club of a similar stature. Yeah. You're not going from Real Madrid to a club that are a level below in terms of the size. Yeah. You go into a club, the top sort of 5 or 6 clubs in the world are like your Real Madrids, Barcelona's, United, Bayern Munich, Juve, maybe the Scousers. Yeah? Like, that's your big sort of the clubs with a worldwide fan base, with the history, with the big crowds and all the rest of it. So, in a player's mind, you might think, right, I can go to a club that size. I'm happy to go there. So, I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility that someone like Gyokeres could go there, because...
And let's not forget as well, he's been playing in the Portuguese league. He was playing in the Championship in 2023. It's not like he's, Mbappe, where his whole life has been told he's going to be the next Pele.
He had a decent season in the Championship as well. It's not like he flopped there.
He got 22 goals, 21 goals in the Championship, and then in his first season at Sporting, which was last year, he got 43 and 50 in all competitions. This season so far, he's got 53 and 51. It's like Ronaldo sort of at Real Madrid kind of numbers. Yeah. More goals than games, which is unbelievable.
Once played for Brighton as well.
He did.
Just didn't make the cut there. Didn't rate him.
Your favourite?
I'm sick of Brighton. I saw another clip the other day.
It's so
people talking about how good Brighton's transfer policy is, and like, oh, they're amazing. Why don't teams just copy that? Why don't you get 3 million quid? Look at where they fucking finished in the league. What was it? 6th last season. It's going to be 11th this season.
No, it's not going to be 11th.
16th the year before that.
If they win if they don't lose tonight against Liverpool, I think they finish 8th.
Okay. 8th. Ooh. So they finished 11th last season, 6th before that, 9th before that, 16th before that, 15th, 17th and 15th before that. And I know that they're well run and they within their means they're very good. But this whole thing of like, let's just copy what Brighton do, and finish fucking mid-table and win no trophies forever. Yeah, let's do that. Why don't we do that? Because we want to actually win stuff and be successful. It's all good having like a team full of people that go, look at this, United's new signing cost more than Brighton's whole team. Yeah, well, look at the fucking trophy cabinet over the last 5 years. That's why our players cost more.
I love a little.
Enjoy finishing fucking 10th every season.
I love a little Joe rant.
Absolute suck-off fest. Like they're the best ran team in the world, and presumably they must be winning the Premier League every year. They don't get fucking European football.
I used to have me and you used to have similar conversations like this about Dortmund. I remember.
Sorry.
It's like, listen, I've got to shoot soon because I've got to take my daughter to training. Apologies.
That's okay. Well, me and Ronaldo are gonna.
Will you pick my Wally of the week for me?
Yeah, I'll do it on your behalf.
Thank you. You know me better than
I was going to say Brighton, but now I'm going to have to think of a new one.
You can do it by proxy. You can, I'll take Brighton for you, but whatever you say.
Yeah. Well, actually, what I want to do while you're leaving, Jay, thank you very much. Ronaldo, I want to talk about the Europa League final.
Yes.
Because this is the last time we're going to be on a video before it. So, firstly, how are you nervous?
Do you know what? I feel like I've done my best to not think about it too much, but today it was becoming very real, and I could already tell by the time Wednesday comes around, it's going to be some of the most nerves I've had before a game in as long as I can remember.
Yeah, me too.
Because this game means a lot more than just winning silverware. It's everything about it in terms of how the window could turn out, the point that United are in terms of the build-up, and obviously how we've played in the league.
Yeah.
It won't save our... Does it save our season? Salvage? What's the word? I know it's semantics a bit.
I don't even think it saves this season. I think it saves next season. I think it might save Amorim his job. I think it might, put us back where we are 18 months to 2 years quicker. Getting Champions League this... Because also, the other thing to remember is, I don't think it's a given whatsoever that we get Champions League football next season.
Yeah.
Because I don't see us finishing top 5, and we can't get any Europe if we don't get Champions League this season. So it might be not just next season, the season after we probably won't be in the Champions League. Not that we will be anyway, because we're not going to win the Champions League, but at least next year we will be. Because otherwise it'll be 2 years probably without Europe, or certainly without Champions League football. that is massively damaging to the
My
bank
reason for
balance.
wanting to qualify for the Champions League, obviously, I know people obviously love playing in a competition and the prestige of it.
Yeah.
It's not even about play. It's about the cash injection that we get from it that we might need in terms of revamping this squad, because it's got so many holes, and obviously making us a little bit more viable for like bigger names. Because I think it's all good at getting a few like deals that are a bit clever, going for young prospects, but I do think United need 2 or 3 ready-made, like almost like game changer might be too strong, because we might have the money for that. Yes, so that's why I think Champions League football is important in terms of rebuild and the money that we'll need. Do you know what I mean? In terms of actually playing in competition, we're not going to win the Champions League, so
no. You
could say, oh, can you be excited about playing a competition that you aren't going to win?
But I think
but it's like
with a good,
it's
with a
more
bit of
about
luck and maybe a turn in form, we could get to the quarterfinals or something. You know, you get through, you scrape through in the groups, win a couple, you know, get an easier draw. I think quarterfinals wouldn't be beyond us if we were to get through. But yeah, I just think it's so important.
And I'm nervous. Obviously, it's Tottenham. You don't really want to be the team beaten by Tottenham in a final. There's so much riding on it in terms of
they haven't won a trophy since
Twitter
was invented.
One way to salvage the season a little bit in terms of getting silverware, Europa League qualification. Because imagine the difference between what you get from winning the trophy from not. Then you're looking at United being trophyless, finishing 17th in the league, and breaking all the worst records imaginable in terms of the history of the club. It's saying Wednesday is huge is probably still understating it, and I'm going to be nervous as hell. I still, without jinxing it, I still back us. I think I back us in finals. I think we've got good characters.
Yeah.
I think we've got winners, and I think just the United, with Manchester United in it, and they're Tottenham, so we've got a bit of prestige that they don't have. Do you know what I mean? I think we've got bigger game characters and mentality.
We've definitely got that.
I think stuff like that does matter.
Yeah.
So that will sway in our favour, no matter the fact that they've obviously beat us, I think the last 3 or 4 times. I just can't really fathom losing to Tottenham in a Europa League.
That's the
European
thing that worries
final.
me about this. Not just the fact that it's Tottenham, or it obviously comes from the fact that it is Tottenham, but I've heard a lot of people say what you've just said. I just can't imagine it. I can't believe that we would lose to Tottenham. It's Tottenham, all this stuff. I can't fathom this idea that, because once it happens, or if it does happen, then it is a reality that you do need to fathom. And I think a lot of people are genuinely not thinking about what it's going to feel like if we do lose. Because all of a sudden, all that stuff that you were blocking out by just going, it's Tottenham, rushes in, and you have to address, what does this mean for Amorim? What does this mean for the players? Not just the...
What does it mean for our transfer window?
Stuff, the Champions League, but also, what does it mean about this squad and this manager that we are able to lose to a team that a decent proportion of our fan base genuinely cannot picture lifting a trophy in Tottenham? I think that's going to be a really stark and horrible moment, because people said the same after Villarreal. You can't lose a final to Villarreal. And they are a million miles away from Tottenham in terms of like the you don't win trophies banter.
Yeah.
Like we don't even have any banter with Villarreal. No one knows, I don't know
we
what
don't
their
have any
reputation is.
We don't have any banter with Tottenham.
I'm not saying we directly as in Manchester United, but as in the sphere that we all occupy as football fans in England. Tottenham are the butt of the joke. Spursy is literally an adjective that is used to describe people bottling it, people being shit, people finding, taking defeat from the jaws of victory. That's Spursy. No other team has got a nickname that is and an insult that is literally just the team's name.
It's the name of it's the year of the first timers they're trying to say. Obviously, Bologna had their first bit of silverware. Obviously, Newcastle and in their trophy drought
against a big team.
Palace doing the same.
Napoli might win the Serie A.
They've won it before though.
Yeah, but they've only won one in 30 years.
I was more going towards PSG in the Champions League.
Yeah.
Could be their first time. So the way it's going has made people suggest that it's likely going to be somehow a Tottenham win in the final and a PSG win, just so like it basically has like 5 or 6 first timers in football.
And who is it who's enforcing this underdog thing? Is that FIFA? Is it God?
Are we underdogs though, really? So are we the underdogs really?
Technically they're one place below us in the league. So they remain the underdogs.
But obviously off recent head-to-heads.
Yeah, well, head-to-head wise, but that's just gone out the window for everyone, hasn't it? Everyone's just gone straight down there. Lads, it's Tottenham. Tottenham don't win trophies. Look at the last few finals, etc.
Even Real Betis could win the UEFA Conference against Chelsea. Anthony lifts the trophy.
That'd be so good, wouldn't it?
Whilst
McTominay
lifts the Scudetto.
Rashford lifts his foot because he's got a hamstring injury, just getting a bit of the swelling out of it. Oh, God, I'm worried. Right, should we talk about Wally of the week then? You must have one. It's been a big weekend. City losing the FA Cup final. All sorts has gone on. Who's your Wally of the week?
I was going to give it Arteta for his sideline antics again. He got booked because he was interfering on the sideline again. He gets really close to the play. I think he ran and kicked it on, but then I was also saying, should I give it to Haaland for deferring on the penalty?
That is bollocks, that, isn't it?
I think that's poor.
I think that's a little bit pathetic, actually. I think he's honestly just so sick of the season, so sick of the fact that I think he scored 4 out of 7 this year. I think he literally... You know, people say, oh, you bottled it. Yeah. When City, last season, City win 20 games in a row and Arsenal lost it by 2 points. I think bottling it is that. You have a chance to do something and you literally are too scared or too worried or can't be asked to fulfil your duty. I think he properly bottled it. You're
scared of missing, but you miss 100% of the chances of the shots you don't take. Is that the...
Yeah. Phrase? You miss 100% of the shots that Marmoush takes for you. That's the original phrase.
Yes.
But yeah, he completely bottled it, Haaland.
I know. So I'll give it him. Because I usually don't think of my Wally of the week until Joe asks. Yeah. Which isn't really good preparation.
No, it's not great, is it?
No.
What's mine then?
Exactly.
I think... I had one before. It's not Wally of the week. I do think this City in general is bad. Like the way that they seem to... I don't think they gave up, obviously, because they were trying and they were doing loads, but I think that they sort of ruled out that FA Cup final as like, we've had a shit season anyway, oh well. And I just think top teams don't do that. I think there's a weakness there. They got a little bit like, won FA Cup anyway, who cares?
They play chants and crowd noise through speakers, Joe.
Yeah, pathetic. That is absolutely pathetic. Something else I want to talk about, and this is embarrassing about the FA Cup final, but I'll admit it. I was listening. I was watching on my phone. We're having fish and chips at my mum and dad's house. Watching the game on my phone, loving it, great. Game finished. Then I was driving back, and it's like a 2-hour drive back from my mum's to ours, and I put the final on the radio, like from the start of the second half. Just listened to the whole final on the radio, and even though I knew the score, even though I knew that that pressure wasn't building, like, are City going to score, because I knew they didn't. When it got to full time and the commentator was doing the whole, this is for everyone, that 120-year history, Crystal Palace have final trophy, I cried. I cried, and I was literally driving across the Pennines with like tears in my eyes. I was like, fucking hell, this is it. This is for everyone.
Who was the radio?
I can't remember.
Who was the radio host?
It was it John Champion, I think, on 5 Live.
John Champion.
I think it was John Champion.
Tugging at the heartstrings.
And honestly, I cried. And so maybe I'm Wally of the week.
That's poetic.
It is, because it wasn't even... Because I think like if the emotion had built up and then it had been released when they won, I knew they'd won, and I still cried. That's unbelievable, isn't it?
That's great.
Absolutely loved it. So I'm my own Wally of the week there.
Don't be ashamed of crying. You're not Wally for that.
No. Oh, thank you, Ronnie. That's nice. I think that's a nice place to end it as well.
Yeah.
Cheers. Right, we're going to be back, of course, tomorrow morning. Jay will be doing the news from here before they set off to Bilbao. Then we're going to have loads of coverage and build up to the game. I'll be chatting with Stephen Howson tomorrow, and then we've got the watch along on Wednesday, of course. Loads of us in here for that big watch along. Make sure you check that out. Obviously, the Carabao, I'm better than that. The Europa League final, Champions League on the line on Wednesday. Thank you very much for joining us. Hit subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. See you in a bit.